Hey everyone. A couple of people asked me questions about things like how did I determine how far is not far but too far to walk? And I think part of the problem is that I now have so many videos for the solve. All of the details are spread out amongst like 32 videos just for the solve. And I have approximately 170 videos on my channel. So it's part my fault, and I apologize for that. I think what I need to do is just make one video that kind of encapsulates everything in one video. And I haven't finished that yet. That's going to take me a while because I'm trying to really do a good job on it. But I just wanted to go over and answer, how far is not far, but too far to walk, and so on. It's just very briefly. I'm going to try not to go over stuff that I previously went over, but I'm going to make some exceptions. And you've seen this image before if you watched my videos, and I explained how the poem works, and the rhyme scheme is very important when you get down to here because he's telling you to go back and listen to me. So wherever we have I, you would go back and read that. And what he's referring to is to look at the rhyme schemes, right? So that's how this stanza, cold and gold, rhyme up bold and old. That's how he's sending you back up. It's circular rhyme, where he gives you the title to the gold, which is treasures. Why is it treasures? Because treasures is bold. It's emphasized. The word treasures itself is a hint of riches new and old. Then he's pointing you to there and where, and you'll notice that there's inner rhymes, but the only words on the outer end. This is basically a poem that has rhymes at the end, which is kind of the standard in poetry. But there are two words that have internal rhymes, and the only two words is there and where. There rhymes with there, which is over, down here in stanza 3. And where, secret where, rhymes with begin at where. So those are the internal rhymes, and that's what he's telling you to listen to what he has to say. Because if you just read the lines, as I have gone alone in there, I can keep my secret where. So why is it that I must go? The answers I already know. You've already read this stanza, so he sent you back up here. So clearly, the title to the gold is treasures. I took copies of these maps from On Location, and I overlaid them, and then I rotated the poem and overlaid the poem. These lines, this word, in other words, I took the title because I don't have the chest, right? I took the title and then followed this stanza to take treasures down. And we chose specific words because he's telling you don't take the first choice, but take the second choice, basically. And also, we're going in there. So that's the first one in there. This is the only other place there is. So when we have T and then we need the R, we have to take it from there, which also, as you'll notice, it's the second one. And then if you read from there, it's no place for the meek. Well, the end is no place for the meek. We're going to take the second E, and I don't need to repeat that. It's ever drawing nigh from this point on means that this line's got to go left because there's no paddle up your creek. We can't use any of the letters from this line. So you back it out so that there's a column and a comma in the treasures column, right? So I've explained all of that stuff. So there's two more lines that you're supposed to slide, but that's not the point here right now. What I wanted to just show you is, here's our place, the end, the end, the end, right? That is synonymous. That's what an omega is, all right? An omega means the end. So the blaze is the end. And we, in the poem at this point. So we found that. Now, Forrest Fenn always said the poem is a map. Now, let's take a look at that and let's put it to use. This is what the wheel looks like when you get there. You've seen that image. This is a screenshot from Google Earth. But that's the image. Here's the cairns. A, B, C, D, and then E. And I've already told you what they mean. I'm not going to go over that again. But here's the deal. When you arrive at the wheel, this road here, just the only way that you can get to the wheel, okay? So the idea is there's a sign over here and it says go this way to get to the medicine wheel after you follow medicine wheel passage. So you would make a left here and you have to park in the parking lot over here. From this point here, you're going to walk to the wheel. They don't let you drive there. Okay. In fact, you can't even camp within the radius of the protected area. And when you get to the parking lot, over here at the other side of the parking lot, there's a whole bunch of information that you could read about the wheel, and it describes everything I told you. And there they have the maps of the wheel. And then when you get to the wheel, they also have another map up there that has the diagram on there, and it shows you how the wheel works. And everything is oriented north, just like this drawing. So anyway, I want to point that out. You're going to read the information here. You're going to follow this trail on foot. You got to walk. When you get here, you're going to see that bench that describes the crossroads of culture and this trail, this ancient trail. This road that's white is a fire service road, and it's blocked off around here. You can't bring any motorized vehicles along this red part of the trail. That's the very old road that they used to take back in the day. When they put this road in, they decommissioned that road. They said you can only walk there. So if somebody were sending you down, as you know, my trail from the sun comes down here, they're sending you to this place so that you could follow the campground road or the ancient trail up to the campsite. Here is where you would park, and then of course you would follow the trail to campsite number 9, which is where the treasure chest was. You're going to leave the trail. You're not going to follow it all the way to Water High, which is the falls. You're going to leave it because that's where the sun intersects the campsite number 9. So as I've said, when you arrive, you have to get out of your car around here in the parking lot and then walk up. You can't drive there. So we kind of already have a measure of how far we're going to walk. And of course, you could draw that as a huge circle. So basically, we would take it from the entrance to the wheel because that's where you would turn off and drive. So basically, the farthest you'd walk is, let's say, here, okay, up to the wheel. That's about as far as you'd walk. He doesn't want you to go there. So let's test that theory out. But first, just so you can see it, here's Dr. Eadie's diagram again. And you'll notice that these lines are just like touching the cairns in most cases. That's because this wheel is thousands of years old. And obviously, the stars move ever so slightly over thousands of years. So it's not completely accurate. The sun is accurate. So when you're standing at E and you're looking this way, the sun will rise over here. Same thing if you're standing at C and you look across the pole up here, you'll see the sunset. Those are accurate. And the stars, for the most part, are pretty accurate. But these are the lines. So you could consider this a map on site. And the same with this map. This is also on site. It's the same thing. Everything is oriented north. It's drawn the same way. So when we're at the wheel, if that's a map, let's use it as a map. And here's just part of the poem where I have the line slid as the poem told me to do, okay? And we've taken it in there. We're at the wheel. Remember, this is where it says try the wheel. End. E-N-D. Notice the gap there. But what I really want to point out here, and when you scale the poem, you got to hold the shift key so that it scales it proportionally. You don't want to mess anything up. That would distort everything when you scaled it. So if you leave the poem as written and you were to scan it after you slid the lines, that's important because otherwise nothing's going to work. I want you to notice that you have the end, right? That's an omega. And then you got the word the. The E at the end of the word the over here, you'll notice that it's right on top of the E cairn. All right. And the end in end is right on top of the center of the circle. The D in loads, which is the D we ended up with in this position after we spelled out treasure, is right on top of the D cairn. So the poem itself, when overlaid on top of the physical wheel, the E and D are lined up with the 2 cairns that work with the poem. And then one of them is going to send us from there to where warm water halts, which is down in the Five Springs Basin. And the other one is where you stand when you're looking at the sun. We put our back to it. So you're going to have a line from the end through the E and down in this direction. And that's where he's saying there'll be no paddle up your creek. That sun line goes right down to the place that we have to put in So if the poem's a map, there you go. I mean, I don't see how you could get any more precise than that. The other thing, of course, that I showed you. So I'm going to go ahead and copy it now, and I have it set for transparent. It's not going to look pretty, but I'll hit Control C, Control V. There we go. We got a copy of it. Now I want you to take a look. This is the wheel. You can faintly see the circle inside. This brighter circle is a path that you walk around. There's a fence around here. You can't go into the wheel. So this is the actual wheel. So if I hold shift, I'll scale it down as best as I can so that this circle matches the circle that's in here. If you notice, we're on top of it. The Cairns are all lined up, and this E is over the E in our creek, and this one. So that's basically what I'm doing here. I mean, we're using the wheel. We're trying the wheel. We know what these cars mean. We know that the D Cairn is related to water, and we know that the E Cairn is the sun, the blaze. So it's all very straightforward. That's essentially how it works. So back to not far, but too far to walk now. Here's an image that I have, and I'm outside of Google Earth because it's cleaner. It's easier to draw the lines. But this is the E line. This is the sun, solstice sunrise. We're looking down the direction that the sun's going. The sun intersects campsite number 9, and the X is where the chest is on the other side, right? That's where the sun intersects. That's when we're going to leave the trail to the waterfalls to go in the campsite. And of course, it goes right over our intersection and it goes down to Rainbow Canyon. Everything here is Five Springs Falls, Five Springs Basin, Five Springs Creek, Five Springs Canyon is right here. It enters the canyon, goes down, goes over Five Spring Falls over here, goes over campsite number 9 at Five Springs Falls campsite. And then down here, this is Five Springs Campsite Road. So everything is Five Springs. So we followed the sun down there. And of course, here's the D Cairn, the purple line pointing to the basin where warm water salt. And here's the parking lot. But let me show you something in paint. So here we are in paint. And remember, this is the turnoff. Consider this like a driveway, right? Because you got to get out of your car and you got to walk to the wheel. You can't drive to the wheel. And you can't actually go up anywhere here without, you need to get a permit. But when you're down at the ranger station here, it tells you all that information, where it's got all the kiosks, and then the bench over here has a kiosk that explains the what you're seeing down here. And then of course there's another map up here at the wheel that shows you all of the arrows. And I just got done showing you that. So what the poem is doing is he's telling you that you have to go from the wheel to the first place that you could walk to, meaning you can't walk there from here. So clearly, you're going to go back the way you came and you get in your car, and you're going to follow the road down, and then you're going to exit where the sun comes down, and then you're going to head towards, and there's signs down here that are going to tell you, essentially, follow here to go to the Five Springs Falls campground. And then there's a sign over here that tells you the path that takes you up to the falls. Warning, it's falling rocks and there's the falls, but you're going to leave that, right? So if we go by that, let me draw a big circle here, but I'm going to try to get it down to at least, and I'm holding shift now, to at least down here where you would come in, and then let's center it, right? So that's about it. That's about the circle, okay? So basically, anything in that circle is going to be too far to walk. Not far, but too far to walk. We already know that because we had to get in the driveway here and then leave our car and walk to the wheel, right? So we're going to go down. There's only one road to follow. You can't drive there on this road because it's blocked. Can't take any cars over there. So we're going to go to the very first place that you could walk into the canyon from. Now remember, you see this purple line here. This is the border of the national forest. This is the canyon. The falls are over here, right on the border. all of this is what the Indians had protected around the wheel. Initially, it was only this small circle until they defeated the government and the lumberjacks. Then they expanded it to this whole area. And don't you think it's kind of interesting that that circle that I'm talking to you about happens to cross right where the sun crosses, right where our X is? So, in order for us to get to this position, we're going to have to drive our car down here, make the only logical right, because this is 14A. Well, this is 14A too. It's the old 14A. It's also the crossroads of culture. So we're going right up there to the campsite. We're following the sun. We're not paddling up the creek, and we're not going to be going up the falls either. So we're going to be at heavy loads and water high. So that is how we're getting there, and that is how I know what not far but too far to walk means. I didn't just pick this stuff out of the air. The poem is telling us precisely what to do to reveal the place where warm water's salt. That's the whole purpose of the poem, to get you to where warm water's salt, to get you to the point that you begin it. That's all the poem is needed for, primarily. Because, like he always told us, you have to know the starting point. If you don't know the starting point, you have nothing. There could be many places that you believe where warm water salt, but I'm going where the poem tells me to go. So it told me to go to the wheel. So how did I arrive at the physical place where warm water salt? I used the wheel. I tried the wheel. I did exactly what the wheel told me to do. And then I used the poem as a map, and it showed me on the D Cairn where warm water salt, and then coming off the E Cairn is where the blaze is going. And he's telling me that there is going to be no paddle up my creek. This is a creek. It's not a river. It's a creek. We know we're going up a creek. So it's obvious that we're going to follow this road. And that's what the tarry scant with marble gaze. A tarry scant is a short stay or a sojourn. Well, that's exactly what this road is describing. Five Springs Falls campsite. You see what I'm saying? So he's telling you where to go. Tarry scant with marble gaze. Just take the chest and go in peace. He's telling you that. That's what a tarry scant is. So basically, that's it. I mean, it's extremely straightforward, provided you know where warm water's salt. That's the key. That's the big thing about this poem. Everybody ran to a map and they used their own personal bias to figure out places where warm water's salt. Nobody used the poem except for us and Sam Smith, obviously, first to tell us where to go to warm water salt. We know that that's where warm water salt. It's got to be. Even if everything I'm telling you here about this part is wrong, warm water salt is derived from the wheel. Period. There's no question about it. The poem tells you right up without making any modifications to the poem as far as changing any of the words, deleting the spaces, or changing the punctuation. You do what the poem says. The poem was made by an architect. Okay. So he's telling you, the architect is telling you what to do on the poem itself. He's telling you to take the word that is key, just like he took the treasure chest. You're following in his footsteps and you're taking it down, and he's going to reveal his secret where. So where is in there, which is below the home of Brown, which is where we took it. And the only other place you have where is begin it where. So he's telling you where to begin it. Try the wheel, Wyoming. Okay, we know it's in Wyoming, the Wyoming medicine wheel. I've done it tired, now I'm weak. So that's the reason when you're tired and weak, what do? Well, you go and you take a rest at a campground. I mean, this is, you can't get any more straightforward than this. So, like I said, you have to use the poem, and you're going to use deductive reasoning. When he tells you to try to wheel, what does he mean? Well, he doesn't have to give us a numeric number for how far it is to be too far to walk. We know what that number is. And he's telling you that you're going to have to use your car or another means of transportation to get to the point. He wants to put you in below the home of Brown. The home of Brown is everything that's protected within this national forest. So he's taking you from the mountain peak up here around 9,764 feet. Actually, it's 10,000 feet up here. And the wheel is at like 94 or 9,500 feet. So these are almost like two different mountain peaks. He's taking you off the mountain down to the base of the mountain into the basin. And then he's taking you up the creek to the chest. Why is he doing that? Because he just got done telling you it's not far, but it's too far to walk. And just like he and Donnie did, he describes that he used mountain man wisdom, and they followed the nearest creek down until they reached a point that only water could go. They could see their destination, but they couldn't go there because only the water can go. Well, that's the waterfall. So they turned back. They went up the creek, and then they found the nearest Forest Service road, and then they got out, and then they were able to come down here and then go back home, which would be their campsite. And that's where he left the trove. But he uses the word trove because we have two troves here. You got to get rid of the gold fever. This is the treasure trove. But this is a national trove. It's the Bighorn Medicine Meal. It represents 81 Plains Indian tribes, right? So this is part of our national trove. We had to leave the wheel when we were tired and weak, and we took our trove down here, and then we left it here. So when you go across here, just like we use the end up here, like I just showed you, it lines up with these two lines. We know that when we get down to campsite number 9, we're going to find something that's related to the end. Well, that would be the double omega that's right on the edge of the campground. And when you look through the double omega, you're going to see a third omega that is naturally made, and it's like almost 30 inches in diameter. It's huge. And it's a tree shaped in a form of the third omega. And it's resting right above the nook. And in that nook, there's rocks and mud because it's in close proximity to the creek. And there's no trails anywhere within 50 feet of that. Now, if you were to walk over that nook and walk back about another 10 feet, you could see the huge rock slide right behind there. Those are the heavy loads. But he said there's no paddling up the creek. We're not going to go up. We can't get up. You can't go up the waterfall, right? You'd be back where you started. So that's how he's referring back to it. When he in stanza 3, when he says from there, in other words, from here, it is no place for the meek. Okay. And then the end is ever drawing nigh. The end is ever drawing nigh. But he's telling you that you're not going to go back to the wheel. You're going to go, there will be no paddle up your creek. There will be no paddle up your creek, just heavy loads and water high. That's described right on the sign here. Follow this road to the waterfalls, essentially. Follow it to the parking lot, get out, and then you follow the trail. That is also marked, and it says that there's rock slides and waterfalls. That's your heavy loads and water high, right? That's all we're going to have. Well, that's exactly what we have here. And we've followed it to the end, and we ended at an omega. I don't know how you can get more precise than this, but that is exactly how it is. And like I said, I apologize that this information sounds repeated because I've done it so many videos that the solve is scattered across the large area. I really need to make one video that goes through the entire process from beginning to end. But I'm trying to spend a lot of time on it so that it's only maybe 15, 20 minutes long, no longer than that. I don't want to have to do it in an hour And I'm not going to explain it in depth like I am here, because that's what makes these videos take so long. If people want to get it in depth, they can go and follow the playlist that I made and get all of the deep information that's here. But so again, I apologize for the fact that the information's scattered. But that's how we get not far but too far to walk as an actual number. And incidentally, if you were to go here at this road and follow it all the way down to here, it's 10 miles. So for those of you that know about 10 miles and and too far to walk, there you go. It's 10 miles. That's just another hint. But you could use deductive reasoning to figure out how far what he wants you to do. You just got done walking to the wheel. So right off the bat, he's telling you that the place you need to go is nowhere near within walking distance. So what that means is hop in your car and drive to the nearest place that you could walk to the treasure chest from. And that would be right here. Have a good day, folks. Peace.